So one of the most important features in Assassin's Creed Valhalla is the settlement system, and since I've basically completed everything there is to complete with the settlement, I thought I'd make a video going through what every upgrade is, the leveling system, which to be honest confused me a little to start as well as what I would recommend upgrading first, as well as what each upgrade actually is. And I've scoured everywhere to make sure this is everything about the settlement, and I think it is, but before I do get into all that, I thought I'd just go through how to get resources you need to upgrade the settlement. If you're watching this, you probably already know that the main way of getting both raw materials and supplies, the two resources you use for upgrades, are collected by doing raids on various monasteries marked around the map. However, that's not the only way of collecting these resources. Before pledging yourself to a territory, what you can do is just hover over one and you'll be told of a reward you'll get for pledging yourself to that territory or completing that arc. And sometimes the reward can be supplies and raw materials. So if you guys don't know where to pledge yourself to, or you're given some choices, that might help you make that decision, especially if your priority is the settlement. Also, you can just find supplies out and around the world in the form of wealths, which to be honest is quite rare and hasn't happened to me very much. What you can do to speed that up is purchase a range of maps from a cartographer that reveal the locations of various supplies out and around England, or at least that's what I thought. My guess was that the maps would reveal supplies exclusively that weren't in monasteries, but they don't, and more often than not, they are just the supplies you would find in monasteries. So purchasing supply maps basically just tells you to go to monasteries already marked on your map. So all I'd recommend using that for is to see how many supplies are in a certain territory, because it will tell you so that you can go on like a series of raids in that territory. But don't fall into the same trap as I did, because more often than not it will usually just mark supplies from monasteries you are probably going to raid anyway. Also, just a bit of advice for raids as well, as I didn't know this until I was a fair bit through the game. You don't need to actually pilot your longship to every monastery you find, because you can just run there on foot and call a raid by holding down the arrow and opening that little menu. Before we get exactly into what each upgrade does, I thought I'd talk about the leveling system, because going into the settlement I sort of assumed you'd simply be able to purchase any building you like just from the get-go. But you can't do that, and with each level comes a new set of upgrades. The story can't move along unless you build a blacksmith, so you have that from the start basically, and also at level 1 you can build the Hidden Ones Bureau, Stables, Trading Post, and Barracks. And if you're confused about what you can and can't buy at a particular level, if you use Soon In, you'll be shown a bunch of things you can build, and if the icons flash blue, it means that's something you can build. And to start, you aren't given too many choices and are sort of pushed in the direction of buying those for your upgrades I just mentioned, but those are the big ones, so it's not too bad really. The big one you're probably wondering about is the SEER'S hut, but that's only usable at a certain point in the story, where you'll be prompted to buy it but don't really have to. Now, the way that you level up your settlement is by simply buying upgrades. However, what you can do to speed up the process is complete various arcs, which when you hover over them will show this symbol, and I'm actually pretty sure you can't get past certain levels without actually doing some of these. And as I said before, completing certain arcs will give you resources to help upgrade the settlement, so a lot of the work's done for you just by completing the story. Also, I thought I'd mention, if you ever see a store unoccupied, there's probably a narrative reason for it. Like, I had to speak to the tattooist to get her to work again because her character was having like personal issues, and if you ever can't find somebody, just check the quest log or look around the camp, and you should be able to get them back to work. And the last thing I should mention before actually getting into every upgrade is the feast buff, which is something you should make the most of early on, I feel. If you go up to the entrance of the longhouse, you'll see this bell, and if you press the prompt next to it, you'll be able to start a feast. To the left, you'll see all the stat upgrades it will give you for the next 3 hours, which is basically the length of an arc. So if you're worried you're a little under leveled for a certain arc, definitely go and do that and it will help you out, and it only really costs a little bit of money. There's a variety of upgrades that will improve the feast buff, in fact most of them do, I think, and you can get an idea of which do by just sending out Soon In and hovering over an upgrade. And if you'd like to know exactly what that upgrade adds, what you can do is go up to it and you can see the buff on the sign. So anyway, onto the upgrades themselves. The Hidden Ones Bureau is exactly what it sounds like, and purchasing it allows you to freely hunt members of the Order of Ancients from a fairly early point. And having that menu and some of those targets unlocked is really cool, and it would be great if not for the fact that the silhouetting makes it clear who the Grandmaster is at the start of the game, or close to the start of the game. Like, imagine if you kill Tamir in AC1, then the game accidentally tells you Al Mullin was pulling the strings with no context or payoff. It'd be, like, really, really fucking annoying. So, just be careful on the menu. it's pretty unusable without spoilers after the Oxfordshire arc. I know I mentioned this before, but like, just be careful. For me, yeah. But yeah, the practical use of the bureau throughout the game is that you can return Hytham these medallions you get from killing ancients and zealots, and he'll give you abilities in return. The Seer's Hut is where you can visit Valka and experience hallucinations that take you to new realms, and those are quite narrative heavy, so I'll leave those to you guys to experience for yourself. And the blacksmith is exactly what you'd expect, for the most part at least. It's where you improve the quality of your gear in exchange for resources, and by improving the quality, you unlock more upgrade and rune slots for that respective piece of gear. And that's obviously super useful if you do just want to stick with the same gear as I did. And you can do that anyway, but if you really want to have the strongest gear, you can pretty much do that with any outfit, and that's the way to go about it. And the thing is, you can't actually buy gear there, you do that at the general store. And the general store, again, is what you'd expect. You can buy weapons, clothing, runes, and also sell things. You might have noticed that you pick up a bunch of seemingly worthless items, and this is where you sell those, as well as runes, and weirdly where you buy tattoo and hair schematics. Like anything you need to buy, you buy here, and then you like use that in the tattooist or blacksmith. And if you were wondering why the tattooist was a bit sparse of stock, that's because all of their stock is here, and the tattooist is where you customize, and that's basically all the tattooist does. Allows you to change your haircut and tattoos, and some of these tattoos might not be visible with the armor you guys like, so what you can do if you have a piece of armor you like, but a tattoo you want to show, is just hover over that piece of armor and press down on the right thumbstick or whatever the PC equivalent is of that, and it will turn invisible. The barracks is where you can create your own Yoms Viking, and also there's usually a player created one nearby, and on top of that, what you can do at the barracks is customize your crew. Over the course of the game, you'll get new allies to join your ranks, and if you want them to raid with you or just be on your longship to tell unique stories, you can swap them in here. At the northernmost point of the camp, you can build a museum that houses all of the Roman artifacts that you find, or Octavian takes them and gives you decorative statues you can place around the settlement, and you can place those at these spots. The shipyard is everything you'd expect it to be. It's where you customize your longship, and that's effectively its only use. The fishing hut is where you get these assignments to find various fish and bring them back to camp for a rune. Each assignment has its own sort of story, you can see, and if you're curious about where to find these fish, you can just hover over them and you get sort of a vague idea of where to look. The stables is where you can buy new mounts and also give lessons to your current mount, such as boosting their health and allowing them to swim. And lastly, you have the cartographer, who can unveil where certain bits of wealth are located, and as useless as that is for supplies, you can locate various bits of gear and abilities, and also ingots that are used for gear upgrades. And the gear gets better as you go to regions with higher power levels, so say you need some gold, buy an ingot map for a place with a higher power level like Yorkshire, and if you needed some copper, you could do the same with somewhere like Leicestershire or Cambridge. Personally, I'd recommend buying the stables first, because to me that has the most long-term practical use. Without the horse swimming ability, getting about England is going to take you so much longer than it needs to, because you'll be doing a whole lot of swimming, so I'd go for that personally. Also, the Hidden Ones Bureau to open up some of those assassinations, because they're cool, although not really of a ton of practical use to begin with. I think that's pretty much it, guys. I'm sorry this ended up being so long. I wanted this to be much more concise, but I didn't really want to skip over anything. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, maybe leave a like, and if you didn't, maybe let me know why. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next time in another Assassin's Creed video.